Hello and welcome to this video where we'll show you how to write a good introduction for your bachelor's or master thesis. In the first part of the video, we will cover the essential conceptual foundations of an introduction that you need to know. In the second part, we will show you how to most efficiently find the perfect structure for your introduction. In the third and final part, we will present examples of well-structured introductions that you can similarly apply in your bachelor's or master thesis. Note that you can download all the role model papers used in this video right below it. The actual purpose of the introduction is to start from where your readers are and lead them to the understanding they wish to gain. Successful introductions are therefore like a GPS system guiding the reader like a driver on a well-structured route to the destination. However, the most important aspect is that your introduction addresses a relevant problem or question and proposes a solution or answer. For example, if you're writing about cybersecurity, you could highlight the growing problem of data breaches and then add that your thesis investigates the latest strategies for improving data security in companies and also derives best practices. Because this aspect is so important, let's quickly reflect on the following headlines from the Harvard Business Review. Can you feel how powerful the problem-answer structure is? What makes a great leader? How to recover from failure? What defines a successful organization? These are all titles that address a very specific problem and promise the reader that if they open and read the magazine, they will find an answer or solution to this problem. You should apply the same logic in your thesis when writing the introduction, abstract, or title. If it's immediately clear what problem your thesis addresses and what answers or solutions you offer to the readers, then you're on the right track. This is because your readers, including your supervisor, will immediately see the benefit they will gain from taking the time to read your thesis. This might sound trivial to you, but our experience shows that only a few students use the problem-answer structure in the introduction of their thesis. Most students apply the general topic content of this thesis structure. But what's the problem with this structure? The problem with this structure is that it does not show the reader, including your supervisor, what the benefit is if they take the effort to read your thesis. In other words, this structure likely leads to you losing 90% or maybe even 100% of your readers right at the introduction, with no one bothering to read further. Obviously, this is not such a good thing. However, if you use the problem-answer structure in your introduction, as previously explained, it's very likely that you will maintain the interest of your readership. Especially when you address a significant problem, readers will be motivated to continue reading. Here are two examples. Suppose you're studying business education and you're writing your thesis about ChatGPT and its influence on teaching. In your introduction, you could discuss the problem that students can suddenly have their semesters and term papers written by a machine in just a few minutes, and then challenges this poses for educators. If you also demonstrate that your work offers solutions for educators on how to handle ChatGPT, it's almost guaranteed that your readership, the affected educators, will continue reading. Similarly, if you're studying medicine and state in the introduction of your thesis that a particular drug can not only have severe side effects but can even be lethal, it's also clear that your target audience, doctors and medical professionals, will be very interested in reading further as they naturally want to be informed and not endanger lives or even carelessly kill people. Also note that it's particularly effective to describe a problem in your introduction that has both theoretical and practical relevance. The reason for this is that you then have a double problem relevance. If you're unsure what exactly is meant by theoretical and practical relevance, we recommend you again have a look into Module 2 of this video series. The ideal structure of an introduction looks as follows. You start by describing a problem and emphasizing its practical and theoretical relevance. Then you formulate a goal for your thesis, including a research question that directly addresses this problem. Next, you describe the methodological approach you have used to find an answer or solution to this problem. Then you give your readers a summarized overview of what you have discovered using this method or what the answer is to the problem outlined at the beginning. Finally, you explain the practical and theoretical contributions you have made to the literature by developing these solutions or answers. Let's now look at specific examples to see how this ideal structure for an introduction can be successfully implemented. The first example is a publication that investigated whether the number of suppliers had a positive or negative impact on the effects of supply chain disruptions for companies during the COVID-19 pandemic. As you can see, the authors already addressed the problem in the first sentence of their introduction, specifically the vulnerability of global supply chains and the dependency of companies on their globally distributed suppliers. They also immediately highlight the research problem and question of whether companies should have many suppliers due to this dependency or just a few strategic ones to maximize the resilience and stability of their global supply chains. The practical relevance of this topic is obvious, and the authors describe it using the COVID-19 pandemic. It's particularly important for you to recognize that they not only explain the practical relevance, but also the theoretical relevance. Specifically, they write that the answers in the literature to the question of whether companies should purchase mainly from a few suppliers or diversify broadly from many suppliers to maintain the resilience of their supply chain are very diverse and incomplete. They use helpful formulations like on the one hand it is said, on the other hand it is said, and so on and so forth. After introducing the research problem and explaining its practical and theoretical relevance, they then define the goal of their study and derive a concrete research question from this goal. Next, they explain the methodology and dataset they use to answer the research question at hand. It's important to recognize here that they also provide a context justification, explaining why the context of the COVID-19 pandemic and the dataset they use are particularly suitable for answering the research question. They then provide a summarized overview of the key findings achieved in the study. You can see this directly from the phrase, our results reveal that, and so on. In the last part of the introduction, they explain the theoretical contribution their research makes to the existing literature. This is evident from the phrase, our research makes several contributions to the supply chain management and supply disruption literature. The second example is an article from the Journal of Banking and Finance, where the authors investigated whether and how the composition of boards in the 50 largest Chinese banks affects the performance and asset quality of each bank. You will immediately notice that also these authors address the research problem in the very first sentence of their study, the effective and good governance of banks. Yet, they not only mention the problem but also underscore its practical and theoretical relevance. Specifically, with regard to practical relevance, they refer to the 2008 financial crisis and the severe consequences that poor management of individual banks can have on the global financial system. With regard to theoretical relevance, they point out that existing studies primarily focus on the management of banks in developed countries, not in emerging markets like China. Similarly to the previous example we showed you, they also justify the research context, noting that the Chinese banking sector is particularly well suited for analyzing the research problem because it is one of the largest and most complex banking systems among emerging markets. After describing the context of the study, they then formulate the goal of their work, the methods and data used to achieve this goal, and the key insights they have discovered. Finally, they conclude the introduction by highlighting 4 theoretical contributions to the literature and the implications of their findings for practical applications. In summary, for the introduction chapter, you should keep the following in mind. When writing and structuring your introduction, consider the problem-solution structure. This signals to your reader a clear reason and benefit for engaging with your thesis, reducing the risk of them losing interest and setting aside your thesis after just a few sentences.